Have you ever noticed that most people quit jujitsu? 1 minute they're there and the next minute they're not. There's many reasons someone might stop practicing. Life gets in the way. Maybe they have a bad experience, or maybe they just feel it's too hard and they think they will never be good. When I am teaching a beginner jujitsu class, I notice sometimes that the students, especially the new ones, have trouble doing the most basic techniques or drills. I can see the look of disappointment at their performance and the look of frustration in their face as they work awkwardly with their drilling partner. I can almost read their facial expressions like, will I ever be able to do this? Or I'll never be any good. Throughout my career as a jiu-jitsu practitioner, I have witnessed hundreds of people come and go before I even had a chance to learn their names. Because jiu-jitsu has been such a blessing in my life, I worry for them because I want them to stick around long enough to experience the joys of being a committed practitioner. I often tell people that I preach jiu-jitsu like I preach Jesus when I ask people to try it out. I like to mention how God is also a wrestler and point out that he is a leg locker. In fact, in the Bible, Jacob is known for wrestling with God. The name Jacob actually means heel grabber, as he was known for grasping the heel of his twin brother, Esau. So because jiu-jitsu has made such a profound difference in my life, naturally I want students to have the same experience. So I tend to worry when I think someone might quit. The same can happen with our walk with Christ. When we quit the faith before we realize that we don't become holy overnight, that it takes practice, and unless you drill regularly, you will not get good. So when I teach jiu-jitsu, I like to highlight two things. First is that progression is made slowly. I'll say something like, the journey of 1,000 miles begins with the first step. Or I might say that jiu-jitsu is a game of inches, kind of like that football movie with Al Pacino. Second, I inform them of the 3 stages of progression. I implement the 3 stages of progression in an attempt to convince my students that they shouldn't quit before they have given themselves a chance to bring themselves up to competence. This is a concept that I introduce into many areas of my life, but by no means is it an original idea. I don't know where I heard this, but I have applied it to any new project or skill that I am working on, and it has helped me to stay the course. Once I understood this, I tend not to give up on something when learning a new skill. These 3 phases can be applied to most things when you're learning something new. The phases I am talking about are the awkward phase, the mechanical phase, and the natural phase. I'll give you an example, and with time, I will prove it to be true that you can learn and excel at any new skill you want, so long as you understand that you only need not quit before you reach competence. For example, in my podcast, I always recorded my shows without giving much thought into what I was going to talk about. It was evident by the quality of the content in the show. I am all over the place. I would watch other podcasters or content creators and realized many of them were reading off their script. At first, I saw this as disingenuous because it came off like they were faking their ideas or that it was not who they truly were. But I discovered that it's actually times I thought content creators are just grifting and not much thought been put into their remarks. This is not always the case. Some creators have really thought about what they are saying and no longer need to draft their script anymore. But also, they are on the same message every day and stay in their lane. Once they've mastered the subject matter, they can speak freely about what they want to say. Which brings me back to my point. Whether they knew it or not, they were implementing the 3 phases of their craft. I will show you with time that becoming a good writer will sharpen my skill of being a podcaster creator. Now, I don't really know shit about writing. I write every day for work, but I stay within a certain lane. I draft legal documents such as motions and briefs, etc. I've been doing it so long that I can draft these documents without much thought. Not only that, but now we have AI. So now it's even easier. But if you want to learn to write, and I mean really write, you have to develop the skill. I recently started drafting scripts for my podcast in an effort to produce better, more thoughtful content. However, when it comes to drafting my script for my podcast, I suck. But what I reminded myself, just like I reminded my students, is that right now I am in the awkward phase of learning to write out what I want to say in my podcast. I know that if I keep working at it, I will eventually become a natural podcaster, or at least appear that way. I will eventually become a natural communicator on the topics I write about because I will have put meaningful thought into these topics. I just have to stay consistent in those activities that will make me an expert. I realized that this is part of the process of learning how to think, especially about the topics I discuss. Writing forces me to think. At first, my shows are going to look awkward or even boring, evident by the way I am talking. I noticed from the last couple of episodes that I sound monotone and the subject matter is kind of depressing. It's because I am reading my script and I don't want to mess up. Also, it's because I am speaking on topics that I really haven't given much thought to. It's not that I haven't never thought about these topics, but writing about them internalizes my ideas and works out what I really believe so that they become a natural part of who I am. You will see that over time, my shows will begin to look more mechanical and less awkward. This means my shows will look better and the knowledge will be there, but the delivery will still be off a bit. It's toughest getting out of the awkward phase because in that awkward phase is when you will have feelings of self-doubt and start to tell yourself that I will never be a good fill in the blank. But if you understand the 3 phases of progression, you are less likely to waver in your endeavors. Once you move out of the mechanical phase, it will begin to look like you're a natural. I know that at some point in the future, people will begin to think that I have been podcasting all my life. I will look like a natural. You just have to have courage to keep going, a subject I will speak about in a future episode. Oftentimes, we see people doing amazing things and we think they must be a natural at it or that they were just born with talent. But what people don't often see is all the hard work that person put into developing that skill, the risks they took, all of the holidays and parties they missed, the criticism they refuse to listen to. Now, it's important to understand that everyone goes through the 3 phases of progression, with everything from learning to walk and run and from learning to speak in public. No one is a natural at anything. This might be my most controversial statement I make in this episode, but I believe it. Think of a boxer, a kickboxer, or an MMA fighter. When they first learned footwork and how to throw a punch, their footwork starts out awkwardly. They're learning to throw a punch all the while trying to remember to slip right to avoid a punch. But with time, they begin to practice the techniques more mechanically until next thing they know, they look like a natural. Sometimes we say that person is a natural at something, but in actuality, they learn quickly. The 3 phases of progression often blend together, making it difficult to know what stage they're in. I remember when I got my blue or purple belt in Jiu Jitsu, my coach had said to the class that I was a natural and that there was no doubt about it. It was quite the compliment, and I was very proud, and it felt good to hear. But it wasn't true. When I started Jiu Jitsu, I sucked just like everyone else who started Jiu Jitsu. I must have looked like a fish out of water. And I was extremely, and I was going to say more like I was a big guy. I was overweight is what I was going to say. But the truth was I just trained a lot. And when we were drilling, I did less talking and more drilling. I got good fast because I watched a lot of jiu-jitsu videos, and I always went to open mats at other gyms, even as a white belt. Very quickly, I began to look like a natural to some, but that's because no one was there to see all the extra work I was putting in. When you begin to recognize that progression in any skill always follows these 3 phases, you can rationalize with confidence that so long as you do not quit, you will eventually develop into a natural. Whatever you're trying to do, whatever goal you have, stick it out, and you will see that you are not long from being great. I have definitely seen practitioners who started out very mediocre at jiu-jitsu, who eventually surprised me in how good they got. They still can't tap Big Daddy, but they are not far off. And that's all I have to say about this. But let me leave you with the verse. Philippians 1, verse 6. It is written, "And I am sure of this, that who began a good work in you will bring it to completion at the day of Jesus Christ." Just like the 3 phases of progression in jiu-jitsu or podcasting, this verse reminds us that spiritual growth and excellence are processes, not instant transformations. It affirms that God is at work in us, even during the awkward and mechanical phases, and he will not quit. You only need not quit before you reach competence. So wherever you are in your journey, whether jiu-jitsu, podcasting, writing, parenting, or your walk with Christ, just remember, everyone starts awkward. Every expert who was once a beginner. Everyone who looks like a natural today once felt like quitting yesterday. Don't let the awkward phase fool you into believing you are not called to do this. The truth is, God is doing something in you, even when you can't see the results yet. Like Philippians 1:6, he who began a good work in you will bring it to completion on the day of Jesus Christ. Means the process you're in right now is sacred. It's part of God's plan. Keep drilling, keep pressing, keep showing up. Because with time and consistency, You'll move from the awkward to mechanical to natural. When people look at you and say, you make it look easy, you'll know it wasn't magic. It was faith. It was repetition. It was obedience. Thanks for listening to today's episode. If this encouraged you, please subscribe to the channel and share today's episode with someone who's in their awkward phase right now. Remind them that greatness is just on the other side of not quitting. Till next time, thank you for watching, and I'll see you on the other side of greatness.